Thanks for watching, and here's what's coming up on this episode of Fired Up.
Well, as a police officer traveling around, I mean, you guys have, put people away. You've made enemies.
Yeah, but that's not why we carry guns. We carry guns because we've been trained. We know that the risks are out there. The police can only respond once a phone call is made about a crime. Well, by that time, if you're the victim, it's too late.
Which state has actually got the best laws for gun owners?
Your viewers are probably sitting out there right now saying to themselves, it's got to be Texas or two states dear to my heart, Wyoming and Montana, and it's not. It's
where your finger is on the trigger and how you're aiming.
Today we're going to be talking about a very, very historical firearm that I'm sure all of you will recognize, the German Luger.
Our panelists include Emily Miller, Marketing Director from the Gun Store in Las Vegas, Michael Giles, retired police officer and defense attorney from Creed & Giles, Tony D., retired police officer and firearms instructor from the Gun Store, Lieutenant Randy Sutton, retired policeman and author, and your host, Bob Irwin from the Gun Store.
Hey, welcome to Fired Up. We are back this morning talking to you from the Gun Store in Las Vegas. I'm Bob Irwin. I will be your host for the show. Today's panel, we're going to discuss some interesting issues, one of which is, should you disarm yourself, assuming you have a concealed weapon permit or whatever, should you disarm yourself when you go into jurisdictions that change the rules on you? Which is the most gun-friendly state? It's kind of a quiz. We all think that maybe Texas or somebody like that. And why you should keep a gun in your home. There's a big debate about that with children at home and things like that. Should you keep a gun in your house for your home defense, as a home defense tool? So we're going to start out by talking about the first subject, disarming yourself for local rules. I have to confess, when I was a police officer, and before the Law Enforcement Safety Act of 2004 came out, what they commonly call H.R. 218 carry, that allowed officers to carry across the United States, almost everywhere. When I went from here to California, in general, I would carry my gun. Protecting myself and my family is more important to me than obeying the rule in California. Everybody out there now with a CCW has to make that same type of decision that we all had to make before 2004. And I just thought it'd be a good point for discussion. Where do you draw the line that I want to obey the local rules, obey the local laws, and not go to jail or get in trouble. But at the same time, everybody out there wants to protect their family, their wives and children when they travel into jurisdictions that are out of scope of their permit. So, how do you handle it? Tony, I'm going to let you start.
I know in New York, of course, where I'm from, your pistol permit or your CCW is good everywhere in the entire state except New York City. And even as a police officer, I'm still working. Before I retired, you still were supposed to go to the local precinct and tell the local that sergeant or whoever that you were packing. And one time, being the lawful guy, I went into the precinct. I told him, "Hey, I'm from Rochester. I'm a police officer. I'm carrying a gun." He says, "So what? Get the hell out of here. Everybody else is too." Kind of after that, I kind of said, well, I went to San Francisco, of course, one time when I was still, before I retired, before the HR 218. I carried. I'm sorry. I went to Hawaii. I carried. I figured I'm not going to take it upon myself. My personal protection outweighs whatever crime I may have committed in that particular jurisdiction at that time. I'm sure, being a police officer, I had a little leverage in that area, but I don't think it would have deterred me if I wasn't a police officer.
But that's the important real question here, Bob, is I think everyone who's been a cop has carried someplace. I certainly did when I carried at UNLV for 15 years going to school out there without actually realizing that I wasn't allowed
How long
to.
did it take you to get your law degree?
I changed my major several times, but for the 4 years of my law degree I did, obviously, because it was the very end of my career there before I went into law. And I interacted with UNLV police officers, and no one ever bothered to actually say, if you're not one of us, you really can't do that. And so I just assumed now it was professional courtesy. They weren't going to tell me to leave. I was a cop.
Exactly.
Even though the law says police officers aren't automatically allowed. I went to Massachusetts to the Smith & Wesson Academy to take a class one time. Smith & Wesson Academy is in one of the most anti-gun states. There's a sign going into Massachusetts that's actually larger than the Welcome to Massachusetts sign that says,
No firearms.
one year in prison, mandatory, we don't care why you're here. I did it because it's not a real nice neighborhood and I was going to be there. But for a civilian, I cannot advise any civilian to carry illegally. Obviously that would, to do that, you have to make that decision for yourself, knowing that you're committing a crime, and possibly in some of these jurisdictions, we just did that case several shows ago about the kid in New Jersey. He's doing 5 years for traveling through the state with guns in his car. Now imagine if you were one of these poor guys who went to California or New York or Massachusetts or New Jersey and had an actual firearm on your person and got caught and you weren't a cop. It could be really drastic. You got to make that decision for yourself.
I hope this statute has run out, or else I'm going to have to host the show by myself next week. All you guys are just out
That being
yourselves.
said, everything that I've mentioned is well outside the statute of limitations by now.
Well, a little anecdotally, when I was a New Jersey cop, I went on vacation. I wanted to do a Route 66 trip, so I bought an old Corvette and off I went. And I had 2 weapons on me when I was stopped by the Kansas Highway Patrol. And this guy looked like something out of the old Dodge commercial, with the mirrored sunglasses and Smokey the Bear hat. And he walks up on my car, and I got to tell you, I'm nervous. And he walks up to my car and he says, "Y'all got an excuse traveling 65 and a 55 on my highway, boy?" And I was like, "No, I have no excuse, officer." And I showed him my badge. He says, "You're right. Get in my car." And he took me out of my car. And I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to Leavenworth. But he never patted me down when he put me in the police car to write me the ticket. Oh my gosh. And I couldn't wait to get that ticket. I'll just take it.
Let me go.
But I mean, literally, if he was going to write me a ticket, God knows what he would have done if he knew I had not 1 but 2 guns on me.
Well, the sad thing is, law enforcement from other jurisdictions, I had an interesting conversation years ago with a member of LAPD. And I mentioned, you're armed up here. Did you get permission for this before 218? And he goes, "No, I carry a gun everywhere I'm going." I said, "Oh, well, then if I come to LA, can I bring my gun?" He goes, "No, we'll arrest you for that." I said, "Okay, so you're LAPD, so it's okay, but in Las Vegas."
Well, as a police officer traveling around, I mean, you guys have put people away. You've made enemies. That's a lot of the reason why you guys stay off like social media and things. Like you're not making friends when you go around these places.
Yeah, but that's not why we carry guns. We carry guns because we've been trained and we know that the risks are out there. And will the risk of having a law enforcement officer enforce a law as opposed to the risk of getting involved in a use of force incident? You got to weigh that.
Look, response times, every one of us knows, response times are 5-6 minutes. We don't want to be there for that 5 or 6 minutes.
So we make a choice individually to risk the penalty of the law versus saving the life of your wife or child or whoever happens to be with you.
Obviously, we're not going to advise anyone to break the law.
No, we can't.
I mean, that would be foolish on our part. But it's up to you. It's your personal choice on what you feel is important.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you choose, you make a conscious decision to carry a firearm, have a lawyer that you met with and trusts, 24-hour phone number, because if you need to use the firearm and you're not where you're supposed to be, you will have legal issues. They may be solvable, but you'll need an attorney.
Well, remember that even, I mean, surprisingly, the government actually did something right when they passed H.R. 218 and allowed current and retired law enforcement officers to carry all over the country. But that was under George Bush. I can imagine if that came up before the present Senate and
But Randy, there are certain departments that are not signing for those guys because we qualify a lot of out-of-state police officers here, and you need a good guy letter from your department stating you served so many years, blah blah blah. And a lot of the departments, Chicago, are not giving retired police officers the letter, and it doesn't have to say that that you. All he has to say, you've served so much time and you were qualified to carry the gun. And Metro, your department was issuing it, and a lot of these guys come and their department won't give them the letter, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. But and also remember the incident that happened with up in Sturgis, where they arrested a working police officer who was up there on the run, and because he had a weapon and he used it in defense of somebody else. Yes. Even though he had the legal right, they arrested him, and he became a cause celeb because he had to pay for his defense. And he was protecting another person, and he had the legal right to do it, but because of political circumstances, he was still arrested and still had to face trial.
And I'm sure the same would happen today in Chicago or in New York City. If a retired officer wanted to wander through there, that he would probably be arrested, because my understanding is they're not honoring the Protection Act carry for out-of-state officers. And they're just not, even though it's the law. So here we have the administration not obeying the law.
Really?
Shocking.
We're going to have to break for a couple commercials. We've addressed in this issue something very touchy for this show. It's against the law to carry a concealed firearm outside of jurisdictions that you're allowed to carry on your permit. Should you choose to do that, it's a personal decision whether that possibility of crime is more important than defending your family. Each of you has to make that decision. At some point we may have a national carry. Right now, the only way we have one is joining the FBI, and they require a whole lot of training before they let you do that. So we leave that where it is. We'll be back.
More discussion on guns, politics, and self-defense when we come back on Fired Up.
Which state has actually got the best laws for gun owners?
Your viewers are probably sitting out there right now saying to themselves, it's got to be Texas or two states dear to my heart, Wyoming and Montana, and it's not. It's
Welcome back to Fired Up. As we watch the news about various things across the country, particularly with guns, we find all sorts of mishmash of laws. We've talked about it many times here. You can do this here, but you can't do it in Connecticut, or you can't do this in Massachusetts, you can't do that in California. And we look at which state has actually got the best laws for gun owners. Who really protects the Second Amendment? And when I did the study on it, little research here and there, it was just amazing.
Bob, your viewers are probably sitting out there right now saying to themselves, it's got to be Texas or two states dear to my heart, Wyoming and Montana, and it's not. It's Vermont. They have virtually no gun laws in the state of Vermont, and they have had almost none since their incorporation. So I would not have believed this if we had not had this segment. I would never gone and looked.
It's cold up there.
But and it's interesting because Vermont is probably one of the most liberal states in the union.
They have the only openly socialist senator in our Senate.
Well, and even if you're an ex-felon, if you've been arrested for a felony crime, there isn't even a statute on the books that limits them from having a firearm. So a local cop has to call the FBI in order to make a gun charge against an ex-felon for possession of a firearm.
It's not even possession. They can carry concealed, right? They don't even
they're
need
the original constitutional carry state. If you're in the state and you're a citizen, open carry, concealed carry, whatever you want.
They don't even address it in the law. They don't have permits because everybody carries.
There's no reason to. And if they ever try to pass an anti-gun law, woe be told. And their Congress is heavily stacked towards the Democrat side, but none of them will step up and try because they get turned out of office. It's not a year, 5 years, 6 years later. It's immediately they get the word.
there's some interesting numbers here. The FBI, they have the lowest murder rate in the country. Vermont does, first of all. In 2011, there were 8 murders in Vermont. 4 were committed with firearms, right? In 2010, there were 7 murders in Vermont. 2 were committed with guns.
That's like my block.
Now,
It gets better. In 2009, there were 7 murders with guns, and 7 murders in the whole state. None of them were committed with guns. So
now, while all of the viewers are running out right now to Google Vermont, all right,
house.
it is roughly the size of Clark County, and its total population is about 600. You know, last time they did a census, about 640 maybe thousand people, which is equivalent to Clark County size, but the population of the city of Las Vegas. We have a little over 2 million people in the county, about 600,000. So imagine that the entire state, and their crime rate is dramatically lower.
And as I said before, it's cold up there.
It is.
What's their slogan on their license plate? Is that "Live free or die"?
No, that's.
I think it is.
It might be. They use
No,
New
the
Hampshire,
Green Mountain
Vermont.
State.
Green Mountain State.
Green
Yeah,
Mountain
Green Mountain State.
That's their slogan.
Oh.
Used to be. I don't know what that is.
You know, their largest city has 42,000 people in it.
Yeah.
It's on a beautiful lake. I just almost imagine almost like a European tranquility. The officers walk around with no guns.
Mayberry.
And they know everybody by
Mayberry.
first name, kind of a thing. And
But it's amazing where, you know, if we get this belief that gun laws reduce crime, we look at, you know, if you want a comparison to Chicago, where they have incredible gun laws and incredible crime, and the whole state of Vermont, which is probably smaller than Chicago, and it has no gun laws and no crime. I mean, virtually no crime. You're talking about, yeah. And you imagine going through the city of Las Vegas and we have 7 murders and none of them were shootings at the end of a year?
you know, an interesting thing about Vermont, if you look into their constitution, many states, not all states, but most states have something in there about a Second Amendment type provision, especially those that incorporated after the Civil War. In Vermont, the state constitution says the people have the right to bear arms for the defense of themselves and the state.
Period.
That's the gun law.
That's the gun law.
And since it says that in their constitution, the state has preempted the field. Other jurisdictions have no choice but to follow along.
So now you know, in the future, when you're on a quiz show, and you have to be told what would be the most gun-friendly state.
For 600, Alex.
It's Vermont.
We'll have more Fired Up when we come back.
We are back here at Rocky Mountain Gun Show, and I run across this interesting gentleman that runs Caravan West Productions.
And don't you forget that.
Has a movie ranch.
Yes.
Where they film cowboy movies.
Cowboy movies and the TV series Top Shot.
And Top Shot.
Everybody watches that. Yes,
Wow.
we're in LA County and we have a small ranch of 2,400 acres. And being in LA is
2,400 acres in LA County.
One of the guys from Top Shot last year was from Texas. And he said to me, he says, how big is the ranch here? And I said, 2,400 acres. And he goes, no, I got a ranch in Texas. I get in my pickup truck in the morning. Takes me all day to drive around there. And I said, really? I had a truck like that once.
They film Top Shot. You do, you guys have produced some movies and worked on movies there?
We've produced movies. Joe, he was over here before. We produced a movie a couple of years ago. I have the only company that has devoted all of its time to making Westerns. So we do costumes, props, guns, horses, cows, location. We do I'm the only one that does that. There are other companies that do pieces of it,
right?
But we do all of it. And then I'm an actor and stunt coordinator, so I'll do all of those things. I'm the Walmart of Westerns. I will give them a lost leader.
The Walmart of Westerns.
Well,
that's amazing.
One of the things is there are $200 million movies, and there are $1 million movies, and the $1 million movies can't afford all of the different companies. So I put this company together, so I can give them 5 jobs and I'll charge them for 2, and I'll give them 3 for free. They can afford it. Right. Just to, I was interviewed for the radio a couple of weeks ago, and they asked me, well, how do you do this? And I said, okay, this is the way in widgets. Say they have $2,000 for a budget. This is just a number. Right. Now, they have 5 jobs to complete. So they go, we need 5 guys that are knowledgeable and experts. On a scale from 1 to 10, an expert's a 9. So say they get $900. Well, you need 5 experts, $4,500. They're $2,500 over budget. Right. They can't afford it. So then they go to the regular people. Now the regular people are maybe a number 5, but they need 5 guys. That's $2,500. They're still over budget. They come to me. I'm at 8. And I say, I'll give you pay me for 2 jobs, I'll give you 3 extras for free. I'm making $1,600, more than the extras. Right. They're getting 5 jobs, and they're saving $400 in their budget.
And a movie comes out the other end.
And a movie comes out as we did Tombstone. We did all the guns, the horses, the saddles. We built most of the costumes. I played Texas Jack in the movie. Wow. And I hired all of the Red Sash gang. All the guys that were part of the gang, because they come in with their own horses, their own costumes. I've got 4 movies coming up between now and throughout January, that we're doing. 3 of them are westerns, and 1 of them is a horror movie. But
filming at the ranch.
Some of them are filming at the ranch. 1 of them is filming in Tucson, Arizona.
That's actually really fascinating.
So I tell people I don't make a lot of money. I make a little money a lot, because I'm always working. And this is the fun part about it. But it's what I tell people. I do a lot of colleges and do some speeches at them. And what I tell people is, if you want to make a living in this business, you do what you love to do. If you follow your heart, I do the one-man show on Buffalo Bill, and he said, follow your own spirit guide and cut your own trail. And if you do that, if you follow your heart and do what you love to do, it's never work. Thomas Edison said, I never worked a day in my life. It was all fun. And that's the way I look at it. What do? I ride a horse and shoot a gun. Where's the work in that?
And I get paid for that.
And they pay me for it. And
do you let people come by and come on the property?
People sneak by once in a while. You know, people know me, or they see the show or something, and they'll give me a call, and they'll say, "Oh, can we come by and have a tour?" So we have a little town and things, but I don't have it's not a tour thing, because we are working all the time. So I have people, I have my wranglers working on it, my costume people. So we always have people doing things. But no, do we have a tour set up? No.
Not Disneyland.
No, it's not Disneyland. It's not Universal. It's not those things. We're working. We're a working ranch. We have 100 head of cows on it. I've got the horses on it. So we're always doing something.
And
people
that's
come out
absolutely
and they go,
amazing. That's out there, and I never knew of it.
Yeah, they come out and they go, "Oh, do you go to the range to shoot?" I go, "Yeah, it's right here."
Yeah, home on the range.
Yeah, we are home on the shooting range. We do all of that stuff, and we teach. I'll teach the actors how to ride, how to shoot. So when we're doing a movie, we have this movie coming up called Western Religion, which is about a poker tournament in the Old West. So I'm playing the bartender who runs the poker tournament. But I had to take the actors out who are going to be in the tournament, because most actors don't know how to do anything. So we had a poker tournament at my house, and so they're at the ranch house, and we all played for free. We all played for free until the director said, and I kept on losing while we played for free. And then they said, we ought to put at least $20 up everybody, so that we can play for some. So make it a little more exciting. It's funny, I won that one. But that's the fun part about it.
I learned years ago, never play poker with a guy in a cowboy hat.
Nah.
Thank you for the information. I appreciate that. I will.
Check our website out.
If you want us to put your contact information on our
Please
show.
do, yeah. Right. And caravanwest.com is our website.
All right.
And we do that. We advertise all over the place. And we do, like I said, we like to work. We like to play things, because this is what we love to do. So we bring people out. We teach them how to ride. We teach them how to shoot. I teach them with live ammunition, with blank ammunition. How many times do you watch the movie and a guy is shooting a gun and there's no recoil?
Not any movies I've worked on, but
because
I see it all the time.
Blanks don't have recoil. Yeah. So I'll teach them how to shoot with live ammunition, see what that recoil is like, and then
They look
let
more
them
realistic.
let them duplicate it when they're firing a blank.
We have people come in our range and they want to shoot an Uzi like Arnold Schwarzenegger with one hand.
Yeah.
Only works with blanks. We know that. Thanks very much for having us
My
over. I
pleasure, Bob.
appreciate it, sir.
Good.
Take care.
Hi, it's Tony D with the Gun Store in Las Vegas, and we're here at the Rocky Mountain Gun Show. And we're talking to Jerry Threet today, and he's with Extreme Ventures, a local shop in Henderson that sells a lot of reloading components and gunpowder. And we'd like to talk to him a little bit about the shortages. Everybody hears about the shortages of ammo, shortages of gunpowder, components, and primers. Have you experienced a lot of this?
Absolutely. I've been open for probably about a year and a half, and it's been an ongoing battle for the whole time. Any given day could be, a little bit different on deliveries. It depends on.
What's your main shortage? Bullets, primers, powder? What?
Probably right now, mainly powder and primers.
Powder and primers.
Depending on the bullets, I mean, they're still hard to get, but I'm seeing it more so with the powder and the primers.
Do you think things have lightened up a little bit lately, or no?
No,
Still bad.
Like everything, it kind of goes in waves. But I might get a shipment this week, and prior to that, I haven't seen a shipment in a month.
Really?
So it's real hard to say right now.
Jerry also does Cerakoting of the firearms, and I can speak from personal experience. He does a nice job, and basically, you guys have been in business now how long?
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half. And overall, are you doing pretty good on it?
Yeah, it's been working out pretty well. A lot of loyalty from local customers and just the community, and just being a really niche market. There's not a whole lot to choose from in town, so that's kind of why we focused on this niche, and it's worked out pretty well. A lot of loyalty.
Have you heard from your distributors or your suppliers that things are going to get better, or when they're going to get better, or anything like that?
I haven't heard anything. When I talk to them, I mean, I get the same answers.
Yeah.
They don't know what's coming in until the trucks show up. Same thing with me. Unless I get a truck that shows up and hands me a bunch of invoices, I don't know what I'm getting until I look at them.
So the best thing to do, if you see it, buy it, because we don't know when you're going to get any more of it. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. That's good.
I hate to say that. I'm not the pushy sales type, but yeah, if you see it, buy it, because I've got stuff that comes in, and once it's gone, I may not see it for a month. I might not see it for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. So it's a tough market right now. Hopefully it'll lighten up, but I don't see it happening real soon.
All right, Jerry. Thank you a lot.
All right. Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Welcome back to Fired Up. We are here at the gun show, Rocky Mountain Gun Show in Henderson at the South Point. I ran into Mark Cole, who is the proprietor of the Guns and Ammo Garage, one of my competitors here in town, actually. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about your shop and when you started?
Guns and Ammo Garage is located at 5155 South Dean Martin Drive. We wouldn't be able to have a shop if it wasn't for Bob and him creating this industry for all of his competitors in town.
Well, thanks for the commercial for both of us. That was nice. We are competitors. We're friendly competitors. We're on opposite sides of town, and we work together on some projects. And Mark's got a great shop. If you're in town, you want to look at that, come to mine first. When you're almost out of money, you can run by Guns and Ammo Garage, and he'll take what you got left.
We only need a little part of your money. Yep.
We'll be back in just a minute.
Hi, I'm Tony D from the Gun Store here in Las Vegas. Today we're going to be talking about a very, very historical firearm that I'm sure all of you will recognize, the German Luger. This particular model is what they call a Black Widow. It was made in 1941 by Mauser, which is a 41-42. 42 was the code for Mauser during the Nazi regime. the number code, and the year was 1941. This was called the Black Widow because it had the black plastic grips, and a lot of the parts on it, like the magazine release, the trigger, and the safety, and the screws, used to be a very like a straw color, what they call a straw color. And with these later ones, to save time, they just blued them. This one here is called the Black Widow, obviously because it's all black. But the Lugers started way back in 1900. These were the first ones that came across, and they were made for several branches of the military. This is a 4-inch one. They made an 8-inch, what they call or a 6-inch naval model, and then they made an 8-inch artillery model, and they were all fitted with a shoulder stock, or could be fitted with a shoulder stock, so you can use it as a rifle. The artillery model was made for the artillery crews, where they wouldn't issue them rifles, they would issue them the Luger with a shoulder stock. The Navy ones, we had a sight back here, an adjustable sight back here, and the artillery ones had a regular leaf sight like the military. Our government tested the Luger against the 1911, and it turned out that the Luger was very finely fitted, very well manufactured. It's a beautiful piece of machinery, and it was a little bit too fussy for the Americans, so we went with the Colt 45. There were, however, a couple test Lugers made in 45 caliber, and they're very rare and very expensive. One of them was destroyed during testing, and the other one is still in existence. This one here is fired a 9mm Parabellum. That's what we call the 9mm Luger caliber. This is what it started from. The actual European is 9x19. That means that the case is 9mm in diameter, or the bullet, and the case is 19mm long. In Europe, if you went and asked for a box of 9mm Luger, they wouldn't know you were talking about it. So it's a 9mm Parabellum, which means for war, or 9x19. It has a very unique action. It's a toggle action. You have to pull it up in order to charge it. It had a loaded indicator. When a round was in a chamber, a little thing would pop up and say Geladen on it, which meant loaded. And over here is the Gershheit, which is the German word for safe or safety. The designation for the German military was P08, and that's what this one is stamped on the side. Very expensive nowadays. This one here, 41, 42, would go for about $3,000, so they're really up there in price. But they are a pleasant gun to shoot. They are a naturally aiming gun. The angle of the grip to the relationship of the barrel is just comfortable. It's very, very pleasant to shoot. Magazine, we're only going to shoot 4 rounds in this. Insert it, and then you have to charge it. You have to take these 2 knobs, pull them back, and let go. Little loaded indicator comes up, and like I said, you can read Geladen on the side of it. We're going to shoot 4 rounds out of it, and it is a very pleasant gun. Toggle stays open on the last shot.
Where your finger is on the trigger and how you're aiming.
Hi, this is Mike Rogers. We're going to do Morons of the Week. These are things that you hopefully wouldn't do, but we can use them as an object lesson. Everybody has to think about safety all the time.
Okay guys, today is April 23rd, and so I'm on school vacation, luckily, and so today I thought it'd be a perfect day to go out and shoot my pistol I got for my birthday about a month ago. And so I could just take a quick video of me out there, you know, shooting around, and I'll show you where I shot. And my brother's out there working on his stockinette, so don't mind him. So basically what I'm going to do is we get the magazine ready, get the gun ready, and I can show you my shooting skills. Okay? So, see ya. Okay guys, so I'm out here, I got the magazine all loaded up, the gun's ready to shoot, and so when I'm up here, I'm just going to get the magazine ready, clip in. That. So basically, right now, everything's all good to shoot. Make sure to always keep your gun pointed to the ground, not to the side, in case there's anyone around. And so what I've done is I've set up a yellow target back there, if you can see that at all. And so basically what you gotta worry about is where your finger is on the trigger and how you're aiming. Okay guys, to sum things up, when I was shooting at the target, I must have missed or something, and the bullet must have hit the metal socket he was working on, and I think it ricocheted off and hit him. I don't know if he's still alive. Hopefully he's still working on the socket. Hopefully he's still, he'll be better, so just stay tuned for further videos of me shooting my, okay, spot, bye.
Not sure if that one's real, but it really exemplifies the fact that you can break every possible rule in gun safety and shoot your brother at the same time. Good work, kid.
A week doesn't seem to go by where someone doesn't say something on social media that they regret. Last week on the Legal Brief, we discussed some things you might want to avoid in your personal life so that in the event you're ever charged with a crime, the jury doesn't have to consider it when they're considering whether you acted in self-defense or otherwise. One of those things that is very common these days is social media. A week doesn't seem to go by where someone doesn't say something on social media that they regret almost immediately. Quite often, we'll hear that they deleted that tweet or canceled their subscription. But if there's one truth, the internet is forever. Somebody somewhere probably captured that item, even on a personal and private media like Facebook. Be very careful about the things you say that can be seen by others. They may be your friend today, and what you say is probably innocent. But how it's presented to a jury of your peers when the facts are going against you might turn the tide. I always advise my clients, if you wouldn't say it in front of every person you know, don't write it down on the internet. If you need to keep a personal diary because that's how you process information, that's fine. But don't put it out there for everybody to see. You never know when it might be brought up.
A lot of guns these days have the classic 3-position safety. All the way to the rear, guns cocked, will not fire, even if I inadvertently pull the trigger. Let's talk about safeties. Firearm safeties are there for a reason. You want to use them. If you're going to carry around in the chamber, it's essential that you understand how your safeties work. A lot of guns these days have the classic 3-position safety. All the way to the rear, guns cocked, will not fire, even if I inadvertently pull the trigger. The second position, position number 2, allows me to unload the gun. I can work the bolt freely, which I couldn't in the first position, but I can't press the trigger. It's locked out, the safety is on. When the bolt's closed and the safety's all the way forward, it's now ready to fire. And I always have those options to exercise. Until I've actually got my sights on the target, I've identified it, I've identified that the background is clear, that safety's gonna be on. Practice with that, get yourself some snap caps, some dummy rounds, and understand how the gun works. Another type of safety system, it's old school as heck, is the lever action. On the lever actions, the classic ones had a half cock position. Still considered the best way to use a lever gun. If you're going to use half cock, it's necessary to put the gun in the firing position first, release the trigger, then your finger comes all the way off the trigger and you ease it into the half cock position. Pretty good reason not to carry around in the chamber on this rifle. It's real quick to put one in there. It's now ready to go. I can put it in half cock again if I have to release it. I also want to know how that works. Many of these have a cross bolt safety, the newer versions. Cross bolt safeties aren't real popular because they're very, very easy to take it off safety when you think it is. So go with a half cock on your lever gun and you'll be covered. Practice doing that, be able to put it into position without having your finger on the trigger. Oftentimes safeties occur in different places. On the guns, on this one it's right on the stock. Very convenient because I don't have to change my firing position. This is also a 3-position safety. It allows me to do that. Now when I go to unload this gun, it's really important that I understand the mechanism and how it works. so that I can make sure that I have a clear chamber and don't inadvertently put one back in the chamber. This gun's a little different. It doesn't have the removable magazine, but it does have a releasing floor plate. Was there ammunition in there, it would release. Now when I take it off safety and put it in that middle position, I could open it up, make sure that there's not a round. Were there one in the chamber, it would extract by pulling the bolt to the rear. I'm operating the gun in the safest mode at all times. Back in there, it goes back on full safe. Unloading lever action guns, depending on the manufacturer, most popular way is to work the lever and empty the gun. You're preparing it to fire at every opportunity. On the Marlin style guns like this, you can release the ammunition from its locked position and only have to work the lever with the round in the chamber. Now when I do the check, I can check the chamber. I'm going to do that visually and physically. Then I'm going to check the area that holds the magazine here and check it and make sure that there's nothing left in there. I can always work the action again, but I've removed the majority of the ammunition without having it in a firing state.
More discussion on guns, politics, and self-defense when we come back on Fired Up.
The police can only respond once a phone call is made about a crime. Well, by that time, if you're the victim, it's too late.
You know, you have a plan for if there's a fire. You know, you talk about things with your kids. Have that discussion with them if you're going to have a gun in the home.
Welcome back. We are going to talk about the third subject today, which is keeping a gun in your home. Obviously, everybody on this panel will initially say that you should have a gun in your home. There are burglaries, hot burglaries. That's a burglary done while someone is actually home. And we have actual home invasions where they come and do a physical robbery and beat you up or kill you as a means to get your stuff. If you have in your house no means of defense, you have chosen ahead of time to whatever that criminal wants to do to you and your family, he wins. He has your permission because you've decided not to defend yourself.
Well, there are some situations where obviously, as a disclaimer, that's not always the case. I mean, if there's someone in the home that's mentally unstable, or if there's a drug or alcohol problem that's rampant, felons, you know, if there's like a felon, older adult child living there or something. I mean, there are certain situations where they can't have a gun in the home.
And that actually comes up quite often. I get a lot of calls from clients, hey, you know, my son's getting out of prison and he's going to stay at my house. Parole and probation says I got to get rid of my guns. What do I do? Can I get a safe? And honestly, the jurisdictional law doesn't prohibit the person from having the firearms because it's in most jurisdictions it's written in such a way that it says so long as the prohibited person can't access the firearms. But ultimately, that's a question for the authorities who are supervising them. And then the question becomes, if law enforcement runs into this individual, do they want to charge him with ex-felon in possession of a firearm? Do they believe that's possession? You're absolutely right. There are certain people you want to keep away, small children, as long as the firearm's locked up. But having a firearm in the home that's locked up that you can easily or quickly access when you need it is far better than not having one at all when these things happen. We've talked about several times that the gentleman who was being robbed, and he talked the guy into letting him go back into the closet where he happened to keep the firearm.
Store all his guns.
It doesn't have to be a handgun. It doesn't. Even if the old hunting rifle, the old double barrel, the old 870 Vegematic, whatever. I mean, but the basic thing is have a plan too. I know it's just my wife and I now at the house, and it's I know where her gun is, she knows where my gun is. There's 2 loaded guns in the house, actually 3 loaded guns in the house, and she, one's on her side, one's on my side. We have a plan, so if anything does happen, we know where they are, keep them in the same place all the time, know that they're accessible, how to use them, what condition they're in. As far as you're not fumbling around with safeties or actions or how it works and everything else, have a plan. People just go through life. The world is a wonderful place, and nothing bad will ever happen to me.
Well, there's a couple other points here. The police can only respond once a phone call is made about a crime. Well, by that time, if you're the victim, it's too late. Then it's reaction time by a law enforcement agency that's not going to be able to get there in time unless you're hearing somebody breaking in and you're making the phone call and there happens to be a patrol car around the corner. And while that may happen, do you want to bet your life on it? But, you know, we were talking about people that shouldn't have, we believe should not have weapons. And, but there's actually another class of people that really shouldn't have weapons either, and that is those that know that they do not have the mental and physical capacity to use them. You know, I don't want to advocate to the viewers here, if you don't believe that you can use a firearm, don't do it, because the chances are someone's going to take it away from you and use it against you.
Exactly. You know, I remember when I was in the firearms training unit, it cost us $24,000 to put a police recruit through the academy experience, right? And that's guns, uniforms, books, everything. And the first day I get him for firearms training, we get a bus, and I take him down to the county morgue, and we pull out the latest gunshot victim, and a couple of these, you know, see an autopsy and everything. And honest to God, swear it, a couple of guys, this isn't for me. I'm sorry, there's no way I can do that to another human being. Right. And they've actually quit. And, you know, in a way it was good because it saved us $24,000, but it never entered their mind.
And I remember every interview I ever took on the various agencies I applied to before I became a cop, they always had that question. Can you morally or emotionally shoot or take another life? Right. And of course, in my mind at the time, I thought, does anybody ever actually answer no, but give me a job?
Yeah, but you say that, but then when you take them down to the morgue and actually see it.
The first time it happens. Yeah. Now, ultimately, it's always advisable to have a layered defense, right? Make your house less inviting target, have good locks on your doors, have grates on your doors and windows, keep lights up, have an alarm system, have a dog that barks, do everything you can to keep the person out. But I have an interesting perspective on this because I have represented individuals who did take over robberies of people's homes. And to a fault, every one of them, when we would get talking honestly about the case, would say, well, there were more of us. And that's why the whole argument of the 6 shots is all you need. I represented a case where there were 9 people involved. My guy was one of 9, and they were just going into homes. And as such, you've got to plan for the worst case scenario, and having a firearm and the ability to yell down the stairs, I've got a gun, I've called the cops. You know.
A plan, like you talked about earlier, you have a plan for if there's a fire. You talk about things with your kids, have that discussion with them if you're going to have a gun in the home. Have that discussion on, okay, this is what we're going to do if this is a bad situation and there's a shooter scenario, like where are the children going to be? Do they run in the room? Like those are things you have to address if you're going to be able to, it's just like, a fire drill.
Exactly like having a fire drill. I don't need you running downstairs,
And again, you have to have the skill, meaning you have to practice with your gun. We've been over and over stories of people who shoot their gun once every 5 years because they have to for a concealed permit. But you have to have the will to use that gun. My experience has been in general with people that don't think they have the will to do that, do when their brain kicks into survival mode and they're actually going to get stabbed or their children are being stabbed, they will smack the guy in the forehead with a hammer, which would never have occurred to them in real life. Or they will freeze, or run, or faint. There's a lot of possible reactions there. And I don't know, my experience, especially with some cop cases I've worked on, you never know who is going to actually jump in and fight. Sometimes it really surprises you who doesn't.
I had 2 people that I was training tell me at the end of an evening where they may have had to use their firearm, that they realized, and this is well after the academy, that they didn't have the capacity to do it, and they resigned.
I've seen that, and you never know.
Can't shoot somebody who moved to Vermont.
There you go.
But the point is, if you don't have the gun in your house, you don't get to make that choice. You're deciding in advance to be the victim. Right. Have the gun. If it's locked up and the guy comes in and you don't have the will to use it, Don't.
And if you don't have the will to use a firearm, at least you have alternatives too.
Yeah.
You know, there's tasers.
Get a
and
pepper
there's
spray, a
all kinds of-
taser,
sure.
a frying
I mean, there's
pan,
all
a
kinds of
baseball
things,
bat,
yeah.
whatever, yeah. But fight. Don't let somebody take your life and watch them do it. Fight. Thanks for tuning in to Fired Up. We'll be back again next week, same time, same station. We'll see you then.